Hello, dear friends. Welcome to the Oh My K-Drama channel, the best drama recap channel on YouTube. Today's episode is unmissable. So, check now if you're already subscribed, because only then can I continue making recaps for you to watch. The story begins with you, a young athlete who is always keeping an eye on Lina, who happens to be his aunt and with whom he will be living in an apartment. He has feelings for her, and his mission at school is to keep the boys away from her, as she is the most desired girl. In reality, he manipulates the plans of students who invite him out and acts as her bodyguard. When they try to film his abs, he throws gum at some kids, making them leave. His obsession with his aunt dates back to his childhood. Interestingly, they are the same age, which makes you believe that winning her over will be easier. Meanwhile, Yu's father does not want his son to become a professional athlete, but rather to manage his restaurant. However, Yu has bigger aspirations for the future, so he decides to run away from home. Years later, Lina graduates as a nurse at a beauty clinic. She is so well-liked that a handsome doctor introduces himself to her and shows great interest. Meanwhile, Yu is doing poorly as an athlete and ends up working in a supermarket, where he raps about the daily promotions. However, his bosses criticize his performance and give him one last chance to behave properly. One day, while working, he sees his aunt appear at the supermarket and feels embarrassed that she sees him wearing the store's uniform. His friend, noticing his reaction, cannot believe Yu has such a young aunt and assumes she must have many boyfriends. However, when Yu overhears that she is not dating anyone, he feels relieved and happy to have a chance with her. However, Lina has a stalker with an emo appearance who is obsessed with her and even follows her to work. To escape him, she claims she needs to buy groceries. He pretends to need groceries as well, so they head straight to the supermarket where he works. Upon seeing them, Yu spies on their every move. The emo guy then asks Lina about her type of man, to which she responds that she likes athletes and strong men. Yu is delighted by her answer, while the stalker becomes jealous. The stalker then reveals that he will be moving into the apartment next to Lina's. She cannot believe it and assumes he is a pervert. She gets so angry that she even hits her friend and warns her father that her aunt is in danger. Shortly after, Yu reappears and Lina, upon seeing him again, blushes at how big and strong he has become. However, she does not appreciate that he disappeared, as his father was worried about him. Yu explains himself and asks for accommodation, claiming there are rats in his building and that he has nowhere to sleep. As a result, Lina allows him to stay for a few months. Meanwhile, the stalker, determined to win her over, shows up dressed as an athlete to convince her that he is a real sportsman. He explains that he bought a watch to monitor his heart rate, which only makes her more convinced that he is crazy. But that is not all. He also tattoos her name on his shirt, hoping to seduce her that way. Knowing that she likes sweaty men, he sprays himself with mist to appear sweaty. Lina, out of patience, slams the door in his face. Shortly after, her co-worker arrives and affectionately calls her aunt. Knowing that she is single, he tries to seduce her, which Yu considers a total betrayal by his friend. Without hesitation, Yu throws him out into the street because he wants his beloved for himself. Then, Yu asks the stalker what he does for a living, and the stalker lies, claiming to be the head of Google, and that this is how he discovered where Lina lived. Then, the protagonist checks his aunt's apartment and discovers that the bathroom is full of her panties. She quickly hides them, but there are bras scattered all over the house. No matter where he looks, there's one in sight. Surprised, he asks if she has lived alone all this time, and Lina responds affirmatively. Without thinking, Yu blurts out that he thinks that's great, which makes her curious. When she asks why, he, feeling cornered, quickly says that it shows she is an independent woman. She agrees, although she dreams of finding someone who truly loves her. At that moment, Lina receives a call from her father. Yu asks her not to answer, but it's too late. Quickly, he writes on a piece of paper saying that he went on vacation to Hawaii. Lina repeats the lie over the phone, but her father doesn't believe it. To convince him, she pretends there is turbulence and that the signal is cutting out before hanging up. Her father then reveals that he knows about Yu's obsession with her, creating tension between them. Lina demands an explanation, and Yu confesses that he ran away from university to see her but remains mysterious about the details. She then tells him that the men who approach her are always strange. Seizing the opportunity, he promises that in exchange for being allowed to stay at her house, he will keep away anyone who bothers her. From that moment on, they start living together. While Yu takes a shower, Lina tidies up the house and plays loud music. When he asks where the towel is, she doesn't hear him. As he steps out of the bathroom, he finds her dancing, swaying her hips in a way that sends shivers down his spine. Fascinated, he decides to join her. However, when she sees him, she bursts out laughing, not because of his muscles, but because of the ridiculous towel he's wearing. Feeling offended, Yu threatens to take it off, but instead of backing down, Lina dares him to do it if he's so brave. They end up wrestling over the towel, but in the end, Yu manages to escape with it still intact. Despite their close interactions, it becomes evident that Lina still sees him only as her nephew. Frustrated, Yu discusses with his co-worker what he can do to make her fall in love with him. Meanwhile, the emo stalker shows up at the beauty clinic where Lina works to get a massage. During the session, he tells her she can do whatever she wants with his skin because he considers himself her slave. Lina, feeling uncomfortable, simply wipes his skin with a cloth, thinking about how crazy he is. When the session ends, the stalker suggests they take a shower together. However, a tall man intervenes, making him sulk. To make things worse, Lina applies electric currents to his body. Meanwhile, Yu, still feeling jealous, texts Lina asking how she is. Taking the chance, she uses it as an excuse to escape from the stalker. At the clinic, suddenly, a burnt smell fills the air. The reason? The emo stalker is receiving violent electric shocks, making his body tremble like an earthquake. He tries to turn off the machine with his foot, but upon checking, they realize he is connected to a faulty machine. Panic sets in as the stalker continues to suffer. Unsure of what to do, they turn off the clinic's power, but when they turn it back on, the torture resumes repeatedly for several minutes. Finally, they realize that only by unplugging the device can they save him. After the incident, the stalker learns that a boy is living with Lina and prepares to fight for her. However, a nervous Lina clarifies that Yu is her nephew. Believing they are only relatives, the emo stalker becomes hopeful. He then claims that he and Lina are actually dating. However, Yu quickly corrects him, making it clear that they are just acquaintances. After that, the emo brings healthy food as a gift, but Lina tells him not to worry, as they are not hungry. However, he decides to go to her house anyway so they can eat together. His eyes hurt when he sees her wearing super short shorts, and as he stretches his arm, Yu notices that the emo has a literal forest of armpit hair that smells terrible. However, the emo doesn't seem to care. While the protagonists are having a conversation, he inserts himself into it. The tension between Yu and the emo is palpable, as any man close to Lina sees Yu as an enemy to defeat. In retaliation, Yu asks the emo what he does for a living. The emo reveals that his music band is a failure, and, to make things worse, a piece of his armpit hair falls into the salad. Without hesitation, he eats it, making Yu so disgusted that he nearly vomits. It becomes clear that the emo has no manners, and he states that he will only leave once the food is gone. Determined to get rid of him, Yu eats the entire salad, imagining that it's Lina's lips. Once he finishes, he throws the emo out of the house, but the stalker still tries to linger. Exhausted, Yu shuts the door. Soon after, his stomach rumbles and Lina, laughing, asks him to accompany her to the clinic to help carry a heavy box since she lacks the strength. He gladly agrees, eager to impress her. Upon arriving at the clinic, Yu encounters a man with a dazzling smile and an athletic build. As soon as he hears his voice, Yu immediately recognizes him as his former university racing rival. Back then, the athlete had beaten Yu multiple times and rubbed it in his face. Now, curious, the athlete asks Yu about his relationship with Lina. Learning that Yu is just her nephew, the athlete senses that Lina treats him differently. In the massage room, Lina performs facial exercises on the athlete to stimulate his blood flow while Yu spies on them. Every time she touches his face, Yu's jealousy grows stronger. Then, she instructs the athlete to position his lips as if preparing for a kiss. The athlete follows her orders, hoping for a kiss, but instead, she simply massages close to his mouth. Meanwhile, Yu fumes with envy, wishing he were the one in the massage room. When the session ends, Lina helps the athlete up, and he feels so close to her heart that he believes he's in heaven. Enchanted, he comments that this is the best massage place because she's the one doing it. Excited, he asks her out on a date, and to everyone's surprise, Lina accepts. Her friends are happy for her, except for Yu, who is devastated by not having won her heart. Determined to stop the date, Yu seeks an ally. The perfect choice? The emo stalker, who agrees to help you get rid of the new suitor. However, the plan backfires. During the date, the athlete drinks tequila and ends up with a terrible stomachache, experiencing what feels like an earthquake inside him. Meanwhile, Lina is teaching him yoga when a woman nearby comments on how cute they look together. Curious, she asks if they are dating. Lina and the athlete deny it, and immediately, the woman offers her granddaughter to the athlete for marriage, making him smile. Just then, the emo finally exits the bathroom after a stomach crisis. As the athlete, still surprised that Lina is single, prepares to confess his feelings, the emo suddenly interrupts, ruining the moment by screaming that Lina is his eternal love. The emo then confronts the athlete, telling him he should be ashamed of trying to steal his girlfriend. Lina, uncomfortable, doesn't know what to say. To make matters worse, the emo, stimulated by her sweat, suddenly has an embarrassing reaction. After this humiliation, Yu finds another opportunity to get close to Lina. He discovers that she forgot her favorite purse and receives the lost and found contact number, where, by coincidence, he is the one handling the matter. Instead of simply returning the purse, he decides to use the anonymity of the social network to flirt with his own aunt. They realize they have similar interests as they both love manga and cats. Without noticing, they spend days talking, losing track of time. They share some of the best moments of their lives, and their friends tease them, saying it looks like they have found their soulmates. However, Yu suddenly remembers that he left his ID card at Lina's apartment. Panicking, he rushes back to retrieve it, only to realize that his aunt is also heading toward the apartment. Desperate, he starts a race against time, running as fast as he can. He takes a shortcut through an alley, unknowingly passing right in front of her. When he reaches the apartment door, he tries to unlock it quickly, but the key doesn't work. Meanwhile, Lina gets closer. Overcoming his nerves, Yu finally opens the door and spots the ID card hidden under the sofa. Stretching his arm as far as he can, he finally grabs it just as Lina enters. To cover up his suspicious behavior, he pretends he is doing morning stretches to improve his physique. At that moment, Yu overhears a coworker mocking the romantic messages exchanged in the chat between him and his aunt. Hurt by the words, Yu defends the conversation, saying he finds it adorable. Lina, suspicious, wonders how he knows about it. He is on the verge of being exposed when a nurse starts flirting with him. However, Yu distances himself, feeling that his lips are reserved only for Lina. Shortly after, the emo stalker appears, announcing that he has deleted Lina from all his social media accounts because he has met a new girl. Surprised, Lina notices a change in his demeanor. As they stare at each other, a tension builds between them, leading to an argument. At that moment, Yu steps in, but this only makes things worse. Lina recognizes Yu's coworkers, which makes her realize all the lies he has told. Heartbroken, she turns away. Yu reaches out, trying to explain that he did everything for a good reason, as he feels a deep connection with her. However, Lina ignores him and walks away. The next day, she goes on a date with the athlete, but he notices that something is off. Her usual glow seems to have faded. Saddened, she confesses that her favorite person betrayed her. Suddenly, Yu appears at the date, determined to win her back. But when he sees his biggest rival there, he immediately tries to discredit him, claiming that the athlete is not a good man and that dating him would be a terrible mistake. Fed up, Lina makes an important declaration. She calls Yu a coward, saying he ran away from his family, abandoned college, and constantly lies to the people he loves. She tells him he is not at her level and that if he wants a chance with her, he must return to college. Otherwise, they will never see each other again. Faced with this harsh truth, Lina meets with Yu's father to confess everything about his son. Meanwhile, driven by love, Yu returns to university and signs up for the same race he lost 5 years ago, determined to prove he is a man worthy of her. However, he faces a major obstacle. His biggest enemy has also entered the race. Fear takes over, and in the first round, Yu starts strong but quickly loses motivation and falls behind. Later, his father pays him a surprise visit and reveals a shocking truth. Yu and Lina are not related by blood. She was never truly his aunt. Hearing this, Yu feels relieved, knowing he was never a pervert for having romantic feelings for her. With newfound determination, he enters the final race with one goal: to win Lina's heart. To his surprise, she is in the crowd, watching him intently. When she realizes he might win, she shouts his name, giving him the final push to cross the finish line. But instead of stopping, he runs straight to Lina. There, face to face, she reveals the truth: he was never truly her nephew. Overwhelmed with emotions, Yu assures her that, for love, he will never lie again. However, Lina does not take the news well, as it means she no longer has any living relatives and is completely alone in the world. Yu, trying to comfort her, assures her that she will always have a place in his heart. Even so, Lina, still hurt, decides to leave. Realizing he has messed up everything, Yu tries to earn her forgiveness by baking a birthday cake for her. He and his friends plan to surprise her when she gets home. However, in the midst of the preparations, one of his friends accidentally sets his shirt on fire. In their frantic attempt to put it out, they start kicking him, but things get worse. His beloved stuffed animal also catches fire. Acting instinctively, they prioritize saving the stuffed animal because it was a gift from Lina. As she arrives, she sees Yu running beside her, still engulfed in flames. In the end, they manage to put the fire out by throwing him into a puddle of water. But when he hands over the now-burned gifts to his adoptive aunt, Lina sees the mess, the ruined cake, and feels disappointed. Without saying a word, she walks past him, breaking his heart. Days later, Lina finally receives the scholarship to work in Europe. However, despite this great achievement, she feels a deep sadness about leaving, knowing she will miss home. At the last moment, she learns that Yu is also about to leave and rushes after him. At the airport, while waiting for her flight, Lina begins reminiscing about her past with Yu. Each memory reminds her of how noble his heart is and how he always protected her from those who tried to harm her. Suddenly, Yu arrives at the last moment, pleading with her not to go. Looking deeply into her eyes, he tells her that she is the most precious woman in his life. He apologizes for all the pain he caused her and declares that he wants to start a new life with her as the woman he loves. Lina, torn, hesitates to forgive him, but Yu pushes himself further, gathering all his courage, and finally confesses that he has always loved her. He asks her, from the bottom of his heart, to consider becoming his girlfriend. Despite the bravery in his confession, Lina decides to go through with her decision and boards the plane. Once in Europe, Lina reflects on her past loves and the experiences that led her to this point. She realizes that everything she went through helped her grow as a person. However, the truth is, she misses Yu. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Limo continues trying to twerk, but it just doesn't work, and he ends up face-planting on the ground. Some time later, Lina unexpectedly shows up at Yu's restaurant. The moment he sees her, his heart fills with joy. With a radiant smile, he shows her a picture of them with his father, reminding her that she has never been alone. At that moment, Lina doesn't just feel a physical embrace, she feels a heartfelt one. She finally understands that Yu has always been and will always be part of her life. Then, she subtly hints that she no longer sees him as a nephew, opening the door to the possibility of a new beginning with him. Moral of the story: don't fall in love with your aunt. But if the person you love is not truly part of your family, then chase after them. Because when you look into their eyes and feel your name burning in their gaze, you will know they are the one. And if you enjoyed this episode, I ask you to subscribe to the channel so that I can keep creating exciting recaps for you. I'll highlight 2 episodes so you can keep having fun. See you later.